Hi guys. Welcome. How are you? The Architect of Silence. Episode 6. The Sister's Choice. The Ultimatum. Elias knew the time for quiet sabotage was over. Arthur's threat to expose Chloe meant he had to accelerate the financial collapse before the structural fraud investigation could become public. He needed the full force of the law to seize the company quickly. He sent Sarah a final, desperate message via an encrypted third-party service. Elias, text Arthur is preparing to sacrifice Chloe to save Marcus. I have the structural report confirming the Azure Spire is compromised. You have 2 hours to meet me at the old waterfront warehouse. Choose wisely, Sarah. Your inheritance is built on fraud and structural failure. Elias waited at the meeting point. He was taking a massive risk, exposing himself to his sister one last time. But he needed an ally on the inside, someone who could confirm Arthur's true intentions regarding Chloe. Sarah arrived precisely 2 hours later, her face pale, her eyes red. She was clutching a large, expensive handbag, ready for either a confrontation or an escape. Sarah, you're insane, Elias. Marcus is a thief, but you're a terrorist. You're trying to destroy your own family. Elias, I'm trying to save your life, Sarah. And Chloe's. Arthur offered me the world to stop, but he threatened to use Chloe's complicity in the original launch as a weapon against her. Is he serious? Did he brief the lawyers about her? Sarah, yes. He told the general counsel to draft a statement implicating her in the initial design concealment. He will throw her to the wolves to distract the IRS from the offshore accounts. The confirmation hit Elias like a physical blow. Arthur was serious. The double agent, Elias. Chloe is now the target, and you, Sarah, are sitting in a compromised position. I'm going to release the full file of Marcus's tax fraud and Arthur's complicity. The company will be seized. Marcus will face prison. But you can save yourself. Sarah, how? I'm the designated successor. I'm the face of the new legacy. Elias, you walk away. Resign immediately, publicly citing ethical differences over structural compliance. Then you call an emergency press conference and tell the media you've just discovered the structural compromise of the Azure Spire, and that you demand a full, independent audit. Elias, it clears you of Marcus's fraud, makes you the heroic whistleblower of the family, and most importantly, it forces the entire legal and government apparatus to focus on the immediate structural danger. It forces the freeze on all assets and financing, paralyzing the Thorne Group immediately. Sarah stared at him, tears finally streaming down her face. Tears not of sorrow for him, but of fear for herself. I lose everything. I lose my career, my reputation. Elias, you lose the fake career that was built on stolen designs and structural lies, Sarah. You gain your freedom, your safety, and your integrity. Choose your name, Vane or Thorne. The sibling pact, cliffhanger. Sarah took a deep, shuddering breath. The ambition that defined her life was crumbling. She looked at the city lights and realized her entire success was a facade that was seconds away from imploding. Sarah, I need 10 minutes. I need to call the general counsel. I need to make sure I have an ironclad shield. Elias, you have 5 minutes. The press is already preparing the first story on the offshore accounts. The clock is running. Sarah nodded, pulled out a small satellite phone from her bag, and walked away, making her desperate call. Elias knew he had won a tactical victory. Sarah, fueled by self-preservation, would be his greatest weapon. 5 minutes later she returned, her face set with grim determination. Sarah, The General Counsel is prepared to issue a statement. He's advising me to resign immediately. He says if I expose the structural risk, the public outcry will force the government to move faster than the tax auditors. Elias, you just saved Chloe's life, Sarah. Now you save yours. Sarah, I want the original Azure Spire structural reports. I need the proof, Elias. I won't walk into a war unarmed. Elias opened his briefcase and handed her the flash drive containing the damning structural analysis and his signature document overriding the safety warning. He had just fully armed his enemy-turned-ally. Elias watches Sarah walk away, holding the key to the Thorne Group's collapse. He sends a final coded text to Chloe. It's done. You're safe. Look for the structural story tomorrow. The clock is about to strike midnight, and the Thorne Empire is about to face the reckoning built by the man they called a doormat. The public strike. The whistleblower's media storm. Sarah Vane didn't wait. Within 12 hours of meeting Elias, she resigned from the Thorne Group and immediately called an emergency, unscheduled press conference. She stood before a frenzy of cameras, her face stern, issuing a statement that shook the corporate foundation of Miami. I resigned from the Thorne Group today, she announced, her voice firm, due to profound and irreconcilable ethical differences regarding structural integrity and financial transparency. She didn't stop there. She dropped the bomb Elias had armed her with. The Azure Spire, the crown jewel of the Thorne legacy, is compromised. I demand a full, independent, government-mandated structural audit immediately, before a tragedy occurs. The effect was instantaneous and catastrophic. News channels immediately switched from covering the financial audit rumors to covering the potential public safety risk. Stock in the Thorne Group plummeted, not just because of the audit, but because of the immediate liability of a possibly failing skyscraper. Marcus, watching the conference from his penthouse office, was apoplectic. He screamed into the phone at Arthur, accusing Sarah of treason. Arthur, however, realized the gravity of the situation. The structural risk forced the government's hand in a way tax fraud never could. The local authorities immediately issued a temporary injunction, freezing all financing for the Olympus Tower until the Azure Spire was deemed safe. The architect's quiet satisfaction. Elias watched the press conference coverage from his office, a cold sense of vindication settling over him. Sarah had not only protected herself, but she had achieved the primary tactical objective, paralyzing the Thorne Group's future. He contacted Chloe immediately on the burner phone. Elias, text structural story is live. The government should have the financial files by end of day. What is Marcus's current focus? Hey, text. Panicked, he's a cornered animal. He's deleting every financial communication tied to the offshore accounts. He knows the General Counsel is cooperating with Sarah. He's completely isolated and desperate. But he's telling everyone you are behind this. He's convinced Sarah is just your puppet. The fact that Marcus suspected him didn't matter now. The company was too busy fighting for its life to mount a counterattack. Elias had to ensure the financial collapse followed the structural freeze. He needed to trigger the first major penalty clause he had quietly inserted into the contracts months ago. The first financial collapse. Elias remotely accessed the Thorne Group's central purchasing system, using the access codes Chloe provided from her earlier data dump. He made a single, surgical adjustment to a small, inconsequential raw material order for the frozen Olympus Tower. He pushed the order date back one day. This simple adjustment triggered the penalty clause in the main cement supplier contract. The clause stipulated a $5 million penalty if any schedule change occurred after the initial financing was secured, a financing that was now, technically, frozen. The cement supplier, a massive conglomerate, immediately filed the $5 million claim. The amount was a rounding error for the Thorne Group, but the timing was devastating. It was the first concrete sign that the corporate paralysis was leading to real, immediate financial losses. Arthur Thorne, scrambling to control the narrative, was forced to publicly acknowledge the penalty, draining precious capital. The meeting of the co-conspirators, cliffhanger. Elias needed a secure, in-person meeting with Chloe to discuss Marcus's attempts to delete evidence from the main server. He chose an anonymous, rented storage locker across town, a place with no cameras and no history. Chloe arrived looking even more fragile than before. She was physically exhausted from the paranoia. He's watching me, Elias. Every email, every meeting. He asked me directly if I spoke to you. I told him he was delusional. Elias. Good. He needs to believe his enemy is outside the walls. Now tell me about the server. Can we still remotely access the historical communications folder? Only through a backdoor admin account that Arthur keeps hidden. Marcus doesn't know the password. If we can get that account, we get every communication related to the Azure Spire cover-up, and we expose Arthur's complicity too. Elias. Where would Arthur keep a password he doesn't trust his own son with? It's the anniversary of the founding of the original Thorne Group. The date Marcus and Sarah despise because it reminds them of when they had nothing. The date is a safe code. The password is in his antique desk at home. I have access to his cleaner's key. Elias looked at her, his expression hard. Another break-in, Chloe. Are you willing to risk prison for me? Chloe met his gaze, her voice low and steady. I'm willing to risk prison to stop Marcus from destroying innocent lives with his cheap buildings, and to stop Arthur from sending me to prison to protect him. Elias nods, a grim acceptance of their shared criminal fate. He hands Chloe a small, sophisticated camera. Give me the safe code from the desk. I will handle the server. Don't get caught. The fate of the entire Thorne family now rests on Chloe's ability to betray them one last time.